Drew Reynolds had been dead for 10 years, until the three-star general saw his neck scar in the rain and snapped a salute that stopped a wedding cold. The only problem? The father of the groom was the same man who'd ordered Drew's throat cut in Baghdad, and his daughter was about to sign her death warrant in a wedding dress. Before we dive in, where are you watching this from right now? Comment your city below. I want to see how far this story travels. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's get into the story. The Texas rain came down like judgment. Drew Reynolds stood in the tree line 50 yards from the white canopy where his daughter was about to make the worst mistake of her life. Water streamed down his face, mixing with 10 years of dirt and shame. His army jacket, the same one he'd worn in Fallujah, clung to his shoulders like a second skin made of regret. She looked like her mother. Through the downpour, Serena glowed in cream silk, her dark hair pinned with pearls that probably cost more than Drew had earned in his entire military career. She was laughing at something the maid of honor said, her hand resting on the arm of Legacy Rivas. The groom. The man with the trust fund smile and dead eyes. Drew's fingers traced the jagged scar on his neck, the one that ran from his right ear to his collarbone like a road map of the night he should have died. The night he chose to die, at least on paper, so Serena could live without a target on her back. She was 7 years old when he left. The memory hit him like a gut punch, her small hands gripping his leg in the dark kitchen. "Daddy, where are you going?" He'd kissed her forehead, smelled her strawberry shampoo one last time, and lied. "Nowhere, baby girl. Go back to bed." He never went back to that bed, never went back to that house. The cartel wanted him dead, and anyone he loved became collateral. But today, just today, he needed to see her happy. "Hey!" The voice cut through the rain like a knife. Drew's instincts flared, but he didn't run. A woman in a black suit marched toward him, her hand already on her radio. Security. Her name tag read S. Jacobson, head of security, and her expression said she ate homeless veterans for breakfast. "Get out of here, trash." Saoirse Jacobson looked him up and down like he was something stuck to her shoe. "You're ruining the aesthetic." Drew raised his hands slowly. "I'm leaving." "Not fast enough." She snapped her fingers, and two guards in ill-fitting tuxedos emerged from the manicured hedges. They weren't there to escort him. They were there to make an example. One of them grabbed Drew's arm, the other reached for his collar. And somewhere in the back of Drew's mind, the part that had survived 2 tours, 14 Black Ops missions, and a slit throat in the Fallujah dark, something very old and very dangerous began to wake up. "Ma'am," Drew said quietly, rain dripping from his beard, "you really don't want to do this?" Saoirse smiled. "Oh, I really do." The guard's hand tightened on Drew's jacket, pulling him toward the service road where the trash got taken out. That's when Drew heard it. The distinctive rumble of a limousine engine. Government plates, the kind of vehicle that carried stars on shoulders and decisions that changed countries. And everything was about to change. The guards dragged Drew past the VIP entrance like a sack of garbage. His boots carved muddy trails across the pristine white stone pathway. Wedding guests turned to stare. Women in designer dresses clutching their pearls, men in $1,000 suits shaking their heads at the spectacle. Saoirse Jacobson walked ahead of them, her radio crackling with satisfaction. "Vagrant secured," she said into her wrist. "Disposing of the problem now." The limousine door opened, and everything stopped. General Marcus Dawson emerged in dress blues so crisp they could cut glass. 3 stars gleamed on his shoulder. White gloves. Campaign ribbons that told the story of 30 years of service across continents where good men went to die. He was supposed to be heading toward the wedding canopy, toward the seats of honor near the bride. Instead, he froze. His eyes locked on Drew's neck, on the scar, the one that started at the right ear and carved down to the collarbone like someone had tried to gut him from the side. In certain circles, in certain wars, they called it the Fallujah smile. Drew felt the general's recognition hit like a physical force. The rain hammered down. The guards kept pulling. But General Dawson wasn't moving toward the wedding anymore. He was moving toward Drew. "Sir?" his aide called out, confused. "The ceremony?" Dawson held up one white-gloved hand. Silence. He walked past Saoirse Jacobson like she didn't exist. Past the guards who suddenly looked very small. Past the concerned whispers of the wedding party. He stopped 3 feet from Drew Reynolds, the homeless man, the vagrant, the trash ruining the aesthetic. Then General Marcus Dawson did something no one at that wedding expected. He stood at attention and saluted. The silence that followed was so complete, Drew could hear a champagne flute shatter somewhere near the gift table. The string quartet's violins died mid-note. 200 guests turned as one to witness the impossible. Under the white canopy, Serena's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with shock that matched the image burned into Drew's memory. The general's voice cut through the rain like a sword. "Captain Reynolds!" Each word precise, deliberate, weighted with a decade of grief. "You're supposed to be dead." Drew's throat tightened around words that hadn't been spoken in 10 years. The guard's hands fell away from his arms. Saoirse Jacobson's face went pale. "I was, sir," Drew managed. "I had to be." Dawson's salute didn't waver. "Who gave the kill order, Captain?" And that's when Drew's eyes shifted past the general, past the crowd, to the head table where a man in an expensive suit sat frozen with a champagne glass halfway to his lips. Arlo Arias, the groom's father, the man paying for everything, the man who'd ordered Drew's throat cut in a Baghdad alley. Drew's voice came out like gravel. "He did. Get your hands off him, now!" General Dawson's voice had the kind of authority that made colonels wet themselves. The guards released Drew like he'd turned radioactive. Saoirse Jacobson opened her mouth to protest, but one look from the general shut her down cold. "With me, Captain." Dawson gripped Drew's shoulder, not rough, but firm, the touch of a man who'd carried him 2 miles through hell. "We need to talk." "Privately." They moved through the shocked crowd toward the ranch house. Drew caught a glimpse of Serena, still frozen under the canopy, her hand over her mouth. Legacy Rivas whispered something angry in her ear. At the head table, Arlo Arias had vanished. That's not good. The bridal suite smelled like lavender and money. Dawson locked the door, tossed Drew a monogrammed towel, and turned on the sink. "Clean up, then talk." Drew's hands shook as he washed his face. 10 years of grime swirled down the drain. In the mirror, he barely recognized himself. More wolf than man, more ghost than father. "They called themselves the Trust," Drew said, his voice raw. "Shadow syndicate, defense contracts, cartel ties, politicians in their pocket. After Baghdad, they wanted me dead. Loose end. So I died on paper, stayed dead in practice. Kept Serena safe." Dawson's reflection went pale behind him. "Drew." The general's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "The trust isn't a syndicate." Drew turned slowly. "It's a man. One man with enough blood money to buy armies." Dawson's jaw clenched. "Arlo Arias. The man paying for this wedding. The man whose son is about to marry your daughter." The towel fell from Drew's hands. His little girl wasn't marrying into wealth. She was marrying into the organization that had slit his throat and left him bleeding in a Baghdad gutter. The same man who'd ordered the hit was about to become her father-in-law. "How long until the ceremony?" Drew's voice had gone flat, cold, the tone he'd used when calling in airstrikes on enemy positions. Dawson checked his watch. 15 minutes. Drew's hands stopped shaking. His eyes locked on Dawson's. "Then we have 14 minutes to stop it." A knock at the door, 3 sharp raps. Then Saoirse Jacobson's voice, saccharine sweet. "General, Mr. Arias would like a word. He's very concerned about the disruption." Drew and Dawson exchanged a look. Behind the door, they heard the unmistakable sound of safeties being clicked off. Drew's hand shot to the light switch. Darkness swallowed the bridal suite before Dawson could ask why. Through the gap under the door, shadows moved. 3 pairs of feet, maybe 4, professional spacing, military discipline. "You still carry?" Drew whispered. Dawson's hand went to his hip. "Dress blues. Ceremonial only." "Then get behind the bed." "Captain, I'm not—" "General." Drew's voice cut like a blade. "You've got a wife in Maryland and grandkids in Virginia. I've got nothing left to lose. Get behind." The bed. Outside, Saoirse's voice again, louder. "General Dawson, this is your last chance to open the door peacefully." Drew moved through the dark like smoke. His hands found the bedside lamp, heavy crystal, good weight. He ripped the cord free, wrapped it twice around his fists. 6 feet of braided wire. In Baghdad, he'd strangled a Taliban captain with half that length. The bathroom. He kicked open the door, grabbed the vanity mirror and brought his elbow down hard. The glass spider-webbed. He selected a shard the size of a playing card, wrapped the dull edge in a hand towel. Improvised garrote. Improvised blade. Just like Fallujah. Just like Kandahar. Just like every hellhole where the mission went sideways and all you had was creativity and violence. "Drew," Dawson hissed from behind the bed. "There are rules of engagement." They forfeited those when they clicked off their safeties in a church. Drew positioned himself beside the door. "How many you count?" 4. Saoirse plus 3 contractors. Arias probably pulled them from his private security detail. The door handle turned slowly. Locked. Good. Drew wanted them to breach. He wanted them confident. A key card beeped. Green light. The lock disengaged. The door swung open 6 inches, and Drew saw the suppressor first. Black cylindrical death attached to a Glock 19. Then Saoirse's face, her eyes adjusting to the dark, her mouth opening to give orders. Drew didn't wait for the orders. He looped the lamp cord over the gun barrel and yanked, pulling the weapon and the woman attached to it into the room. She stumbled forward, off balance. He brought his knee up into her solar plexus, and the air exploded out of her lungs. The Glock clattered to the floor. Behind her, the 3 contractors froze for a fatal half-second, unable to shoot without hitting their boss, unable to process how fast the homeless veteran had moved. Drew kicked the door shut and grabbed Saoirse by the collar, the glass shard pressed against her carotid artery. "Gentlemen," Drew said calmly, Let's discuss the rules of engagement. One of the contractors raised his weapon, and the window behind Drew exploded inward in a shower of glass and rain. A fifth contractor came through the window like a hurricane. Drew released Saoirse, spun low, and the contractor's boot whistled past his head, close enough to feel the displacement of air. The man landed in a combat stance, night vision goggles glowing green in the darkness. They came prepared. Drew wasn't prepared. He was something worse. He was a father who'd just learned his daughter was walking toward a death sentence in a wedding dress. The contractor reached for his sidearm. Drew closed the distance before the gun cleared leather, drove the mirror shard into the man's forearm, severing tendons. The scream died in the man's throat as Drew's elbow found his temple. He dropped like a puppet with cut strings. "Jesus Christ!" Dawson breathed from behind the bed. The three contractors in the doorway opened fire. Muzzle flashes strobed the suite like a nightmare disco. Drew was already moving, grabbed the unconscious fifth man and used him as a shield. Suppressed rounds thudded into Kevlar. Drew felt each impact vibrate through the body he was holding. He threw the body forward into the doorway. Two contractors went down in a tangle of limbs. The third tried to sidestep. Drew was already there with the lamp cord. He looped it around the man's neck from behind and pulled, not to kill, to sleep. 10 seconds. The man went limp. Saoirse scrambled for the dropped Glock. Drew's boot pinned her wrist to the carpet. "Don't!" The two remaining contractors tried to untangle themselves. Dawson emerged from behind the bed, grabbed a heavy crystal vase and brought it down on the first man's head. It shattered beautifully. "Didn't know you had that in you, General," Drew said. "I have grandkids. I understand motivation." Dawson zip-tied the last conscious contractor with a lamp cord. "Clear?" Drew checked the window, the door, the bathroom. "Clear!" He knelt beside the contractor with the ruined forearm, the one with the radio earpiece still crackling. Drew pulled it free, pressed it to his ear. Arlo Arias's voice, smooth, calm, monstrous. "Don't care about the disruption. The ceremony continues in 9 minutes. Legacy, are you listening? Marry the girl. Get the trust fund signature on the prenup. Then the honeymoon villa in Cabo handles the rest. Car accident, drowning, I don't care. Just make it look tragic." Legacy Rivas's voice, younger, eager. "What about the inheritance?" "Split it with Saoirse after probate clears, 20 million each." Drew's hand crushed the earpiece. The rain hammered against the broken window. Somewhere in the ranch, a string quartet started playing the processional. The wedding march. Serena's death march. Dawson saw Drew's face and took a step back. "Captain, she's not signing anything." Drew's voice was pure ice. "She's not marrying him. And if Arlo Arias thinks I'm the ghost of San Antonio..." He picked up the Glock, checked the magazine, chambered around. "Then it's time he met the goddamn ghost." The door to the suite burst open. Serena stood there in her wedding dress, mascara running, bouquet trembling in her hands. "Daddy?" Drew's gun clattered to the floor. "Serena." His voice cracked on her name, the first time he'd spoken it aloud in 10 years, not to strangers, not to himself in the dark, to her. She stood frozen in the doorway, white silk and trembling hands, staring at the father who'd been dead since she was 7 years old. Behind her, the wedding march swelled from the outdoor speakers. "You have to go," Drew said, even as everything in him screamed to pull her close. "Right now, don't marry him, don't sign anything." "I thought you were dead." Her voice was small, broken. "Mom said you were dead. I had to be." Drew took one step toward her, hands raised like she was a spooked horse. "Baby girl, I had to be. But I'm here now and you cannot walk down that aisle." "Why?" Tears cut through her makeup. Why should I believe anything you say? From outside, Legacy Rivas's voice, sharp with impatience. Serena, we're waiting. Drew's jaw clenched. Because the man you're about to marry is planning to kill you for your trust fund. I heard it on their radio. Car accident, drowning, $20 million split with his father. Serena's bouquet fell from her hands. General Dawson stepped forward. His dress blues somehow still pristine despite the violence. Miss Reynolds, your father is telling the truth. I'll testify to everything under oath. Serena! Legacy again, louder. Get out here now! Something shifted in her eyes. Drew had seen that look before, on her mother's face when she'd decided to marry a soldier with nothing but a duffel bag and a dream. Stubborn, fierce, Reynolds blood. Then stop them, she whispered. Drew blinked. What? You walked away once to protect me. Serena's voice grew stronger. Don't walk away again. Stop them. She grabbed his hand, her fingers finding the calluses, the scars, the proof of every year he'd spent surviving in the shadows. I'll walk out there, but you're walking with me. Serena, you look like my father. She pulled him toward the door. Dawson grabbed his dress jacket, tossed it to Drew. You're going to need this, Captain. Try not to bleed on it. Drew shrugged into the jacket, too tight across the shoulders, too short in the sleeves. He probably looked like a trained bear in formal wear, but Serena was already pulling him down the hallway toward the outdoor venue, toward 200 guests, and the man who wanted her dead. The double doors burst open. The wedding march was playing. Legacy Rivas stood at the altar, checking his watch. Arlo Arias sat in the front row, champagne in hand, smiling, every head turned. Drew Reynolds, clean-shaven with a borrowed razor, wearing a general's jacket, his daughter's hand locked in his, stepped onto the white carpet. He didn't walk her to the altar. He walked her past it. Legacy's smile died. What the hell? And that's when Drew saw the guns. 6 security contractors materialized from the crowd, hands moving to concealed holsters. Arlo Arias rose from his seat like a cobra, his champagne flute shattering on the white stone. Security! Remove these people immediately! But General Dawson was already standing. So was his aide-de-camp, a barrel-chested major with arms like tree trunks. They moved in perfect synchronization, dress jackets opening, hands finding service pistols, decades of muscle memory executing in front of 200 horrified wedding guests. This wedding is over, Arlo. Dawson's voice carried across the venue like a court-martial verdict. The contractors froze mid-draw. Nobody wanted to start a gunfight with a 3-star general. Drew kept walking, Serena's hand locked in his. He could feel her shaking. Or maybe that was him. 10 years of distance closing with every step on the white carpet. Legacy Rivas stepped off the altar platform, his perfect hair and perfect smile replaced with something ugly. You've got a lot of nerve showing up here, old man. Old man? Drew stopped 10 feet away. I'm 53. How old are you? 28. Then I've got 25 years of nerve on you, kid. Legacy lunged. Drew saw it coming from a mile away. Rich boy haymaker, all telegraphed rage and zero technique. Drew caught the fist in midair, twisted the wrist inward, and Legacy's own momentum did the rest. The groom hit the ground face first with a sound like a bag of wet cement. The crowd gasped. Someone's aunt fainted into a champagne fountain. Drew looked down at Serena. Rain had started again. Light mist turning the whole scene soft around the edges. She looked just like she did at 7 years old when he'd tucked her in for the last time. Trusting, terrified, trying so hard to be brave. "I'm sorry I'm late, baby girl." Her face crumpled. 10 years late. "I know." Drew's throat was burning. "I know I am. And I'll spend the rest of my life making up for it if you let me, but right now—" "Drew Reynolds!" Arlo's voice cut through everything. He'd moved to the altar, and now Drew saw what he'd missed before. The old man had a gun, small, silver, a lady's .22 that somehow looked obscene in those manicured hands. "You were supposed to stay dead." "Yeah, well—" Drew positioned himself between Arlo and Serena. "I got better." "Arlo!" Dawson's pistol trained on the corrupt contractor. "Drop the weapon." "Now!" But Arlo wasn't looking at Dawson. He was looking at Drew with the expression of a man who'd made fortunes on calculated risks and was about to make one more. "You took something from me in Baghdad," Arlo said quietly. "Intel that cost me $300 million. This is just business, Drew. Never personal." He raised the .22. Drew saw where it was pointing, not at him, at Serena. The world went silent except for Drew's heartbeat. He had maybe half a second to move, maybe less, and then the Texas rain exploded with gunfire. Drew moved, not away from the gun, toward Serena. His body became a wall of flesh and bone, and 10 years of penance as Arlo's .22 cracked once, twice, 3 times. The first round went wide. The second shattered a champagne glass. The third found Drew's right shoulder, the same shoulder that carried the Fallujah scar, old tissue that remembered pain like a religion. He felt the impact, felt the white-hot tear, didn't feel it enough to stop. Drew wrapped Serena in his arms and drove her down into the mud beside the altar as Dawson's service pistol answered Arlo's attack. The general shot was precise, surgical, straight through Arlo's gun hand. The .22 spun away into the wet grass. But Arlo's contractors were already moving. Gunfire erupted across the wedding venue. Guests screamed and dove under tables. The string quartet abandoned their cellos and ran. Dawson's aide dropped one contractor with a shot to the leg, then tackled another. Drew rolled to his feet, blood sheeting down his arm. "Stay down," he told Serena. Arlo was running, clutching his ruined hand, stumbling through the rain toward the tree line. The same tree line where Drew had stood an hour ago, watching from the shadows. Poetic, fitting, wrong. Drew sprinted after him. His shoulders screamed, his legs screamed. The tight tuxedo jacket tore at the seams as he closed the distance. Arlo looked back once, terror replacing that calculated smugness, and tried to run faster. 40 yards, 30, 20. Drew tackled him at the 15-yard line, and they both went down in the Texas mud like linebackers. Arlo tried to fight. Soft, desperate punches that felt like a child hitting a tank. Drew pinned him face down, knee in his spine, and leaned close enough to whisper, "You wanted me dead for $300 million?" Drew's voice was pure gravel. "I stayed dead for free, for her, so she'd never have to know men like you existed." "Please," Arlo choked on mud and rain. "But you brought me back, Arlo. You made this necessary." Sirens split the air, red and blue lights painting the rain-soaked ranch. Texas Rangers. Dawson must have called them the moment Drew took down the hit squad. 3 trucks, 6 officers, all of them moving with the calm efficiency of people who'd seen this movie before. Drew stayed on top of Arlo until a ranger tapped his good shoulder. "We got him, sir. You can let go." Drew's hands wouldn't unclench at first. 10 years of rage didn't want to let go. But then he heard Serena's voice cutting through the chaos. "Daddy!" He turned. She was running toward him through the rain, wedding dress covered in mud, mascara streaked down her face, the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. Drew stood, took one step toward her, and his legs gave out. The bullet wound, the adrenaline crash, the weight of a decade. It all hit at once. He went down on one knee, then both, the world tilting sideways. Serena caught him before he fell completely. "I got you," she whispered, holding her father the way he'd once held her as a child. "I got you, Daddy. You're not going anywhere." Drew's vision blurred, rain or tears. He couldn't tell anymore. "Medic!" someone shouted. But all Drew could hear was Serena's heartbeat against his ear, steady and strong and alive, and the sound of handcuffs clicking shut on Arlo Arias in the mud behind him. The rain stopped. Not gradually, it just stopped, like God had turned off a faucet. Sunlight broke through the clouds in golden shafts, painting the muddy ranch in shades of redemption. Arlo Arias went into the back of a Texas Ranger truck in handcuffs, his ruined hand wrapped in bloody gauze. Legacy Rivas followed in a second truck, still unconscious from Drew's takedown. The corrupt contractors were already processed, lined up like dominoes that had finally fallen. The paramedics wanted to take Drew to the hospital. Serena wouldn't let them. "Treat him here," she said, her hand locked around his good arm. "He's not going anywhere without me. Not again." They worked on his shoulder in a folding chair someone had dragged from the reception tent. Serena held his hand through every stitch, every antiseptic burn, every grunt of pain he tried to hide. Avery Ray, Serena's maid of honor, still in her champagne-colored dress, brought Drew a bottle of water. "For what it's worth, Mr. Reynolds, you're a way better choice than Legacy." Drew almost smiled. "Low bar." General Dawson approached as the paramedics finished. He held something in his white-gloved hand, a set of dog tags on a beaded chain worn from years in a desk drawer. "These were supposed to be buried in Arlington," Dawson said quietly. "But I kept them. Felt wrong somehow." He placed them around Drew's neck, the metal cold against his chest. "Welcome back from the dead, Captain. Officially." The tag settled against Drew's heart. Reynolds, Andrew J. O. Methodist. Proof he existed. Proof he mattered. Proof he wasn't a ghost anymore. 3 months later, Drew sat on the porch of the small house in Hill Country. Nothing fancy, just a 2-bedroom with a view of the sunset and no ghosts in the walls. Serena had insisted on buying it together, her name and his on the deed. She brought him sweet tea in a mason jar, then settled into the chair beside him. Her engagement ring was gone. Her smile wasn't. "Avery's bringing dinner," she said. "She wants to hear the Fallujah story again. That woman's a menace. She likes you. She shouldn't." Serena's hand found his. "I like you, Daddy. That's enough." Drew watched the Texas sun sink below the hills, painting the sky in oranges and reds. The man who'd stood in the rain outside a wedding, dirty, scarred, convinced he was poison, felt like someone else's memory now. Serena squeezed his hand. "You okay?" Drew nodded. The girl who'd covered her mouth in shock at her ruined wedding was smiling now, safe on a porch where no one would ever hurt her. "Yeah, baby girl," Drew said. "I'm home. Because a uniform doesn't make a hero. A mansion doesn't make a man. A father is defined by one thing, the distance he'll walk through the rain to keep his daughter dry. If you believe a father's love is stronger than any enemy, any distance, any amount of time, like and share this story. Subscribe now for more stories like this that'll hit you right in the heart. Also, check out the 2 videos showing on the screen right now, specially crafted for you.